I was thinking also about last night and you know, the cultural piece of this and you know, it's how Sally was, you know, bemoaning how biotechnology is coming into popular culture, and I personally find comfort in how frequently my local cable station reruns Gattaca. Tells me something. And so I thought about Kevin Costner saying famously, "If we build it, they will come." And what is it that we are building? And I don't think any of us have any question that we are building a movement. And as one writer pointed out, there's a difference between an activist and an organizer. An activist is someone who takes direct action in support or opposition of a controversial issue. I'm not quite sure it has to be controversial, but that's what the dictionary says. But an organizer is someone who gets other people to act. And so even though we self-identify as academics and researchers, scientists, activists, I would like to suggest concrete strategies that we have been hearing about over these 3 days. And so I pulled out a copy of my dog-eared copy of Rules for Radicals, and I looked up what are the qualities of a good organizer. And so here's what Saul Alinsky has to say, and I want you to raise your hand if this fits you. Number 1, curiosity. Number 2, irreverence. Number 3, imagination. Number 4, sense of humor. Number 5, a bit of a blurred vision of a better world. An organized personality. Not so many hands. Ego. And a free and open mind. I think that is everyone in this room. So how do we build it so they will come? How do we build this movement? There are many, many views of movement building, and so I just want to raise 4 elements of building a movement. Many of you are involved in movement building, but here's 4 ways to think about it. Number 1 is building power, and actually we heard a lot over the past few days about power. Building power, investing in ideas, building knowledge and credibility. We spoke about partnering between academics and academia and activism. I was interesting, some of that discussion, I thought in that panel, kind of seemed like sequential, like who reaches out to who. And I think that Tarrytown has really been the catalyst for partnerships, for how do we build a strategy together? How do we think about where do we need research? What articles do us activists need to cite? We want you to write the articles so we can cite them. Where do we need public education? And I'm going to give you a really quick example of something that I was peripherally involved with that I think is a great model for us. There's a whole group of people who were bemoaning the fact that women had to pay for contraception out of pocket. And it was one of the things that accounted for why do women pay 64% more out of pocket for health care than men do, et cetera. And so a group of activists and academics sat down, and this is what happened. So Sylvia Law, a law professor, coincidentally named Law, wrote an academic article about why the failure to pay for contraception was sex discrimination. Step 2, they went to the EEOC and filed a complaint. And the EEOC issued an opinion that it was sex discrimination. Step 3, they litigated, and what did they, using Sylvia Law's article and the EEOC opinion, they brought a lawsuit and were successful in arguing that the failure to provide contraception in an employment setting is sex discrimination. And next week, on August 1st, every new health plan will have to cover contraception as part of its basic health coverage. That took almost 20 years. But right. But that is how we can work together. So I don't think we should think about ourselves as so separate. Certainly relationships. If we did a mapping project, which I actually would love to do, we would see the growth of relationships over these 3 years, Tarrytown. I mean, I personally have bonded and learned from and connected in between meetings with people who I never would have met in the course of my work or my daily life. We have big initiatives moving forward. The Emerging Leaders Project, the ART Working Group, the Anthology. We heard about the SynBio. And next we have to think about how do we build power among constituencies who are actually impacted by these technologies. And as Connie reminded us, how do we challenge the huge forces that are full of money that we're facing? The second element is confronting prejudice, and I think that we have looked at the intersection of race and gender and ableism across all of our policies. We're making tremendous progress in that way. The third is shifting perceptions, and we learned from Jane Elder's presentation. How do we articulate a positive vision of the world as we want to see it? I think David Winikoff has been saying this from the very beginning. In order to sustain social change, we have to offer people a way forward as part of the solution. And the fourth element is how do we build public will? How do we connect the dots between other social justice movements? Alinsky said, a good organizer is always creating the new out of the old. And we know that our new technologies raise old questions. Questions of racism, questions of social and political inequality, questions of eugenics. These are not new issues, but they're being raised again with new technologies. And frankly, too often our jargon, our language makes these issues seem futuristic and not immediate. But these are pressing social justice issues. Our issues are about health disparities. Our issues are about reproductive justice. Our issues are about disability rights. Our issues are criminal justice issues. We have many allies in the social justice world with whom we need to connect as we move forward to build this movement. So as trite as this sounds, this is not the end. We have much to do together, and I look forward to the next steps of Tarrytown.